Hello everyone, Jesse Webb, Traders Pro. Market conditions moving back up just a little bit here, mildly bearish in a bear market. The overall bear market still is in place as we're moving in this downturn. You can see though we've been strengthening for essentially the last 6 months, and we could be doing so now. Again, we're seeing not the most bearish internals quite yet, but we actually had some pretty bearish internals now that are switching back the other direction. Some bullish things happening. We'll look at some other indicators here. Momentum, we saw momentum all the way down here. It's moving this direction, moving back up now and finding some strength. There is some discussion for a bullish bounce right here. We talked about that yesterday. We got a huge one yesterday off of these really oversold levels. When we're looking at buy-sell ratio and we see a chart that looks like this, these are just not sustainable lows. And so one thing to be watching for is this number down here. This is the buy-sell ratio itself. It's visually represented here, but in this case you actually get the number right down here at the bottom, and you can see that 0.12, 0.07, 0.06, 0.09. Okay, and then it's getting a little bit larger. So when you have the green way above red like that and you get this spike to the upside, you're watching for extremes to the upside. Now you're watching for extremes to the downside. About as extreme as you can get is around that 0.03, 0.02. Usually 0.03 is about as low as I have seen it. But it'll get down to that 0.04, 0.05, somewhere in that range. And we got down to we're right now at 0.12. Yesterday 0.07, 0.06, 0.09. Okay, so we're not as low as we have been, but we definitely are in that range where we could see a bounce, and we did that. Now the question is whether or not this is going to be just a counter trend bounce and then we move back down, or if we're ultimately moving this direction. Which is oftentimes how this pattern unfolds. Not perfectly every single time, but you can see as we're starting to work on a bottoming process, looking at the data, looking at the internals, instead of focusing on what may be actually in the news or things that are being talked about. Because when you get to this location, we run into a situation where there's just no more sellers, okay, and that's going to flip that supply-demand shift back towards buyers, and that's what happens at these extremes. Is there can be, up at the top there's no more buyers, up at the bottom there's no more sellers, and so it starts to switch back the other direction. Sentiment got that bounce here. It's got a lot of work to do in terms of really moving higher, but we could see a little rally and a counter trend. Moving higher. There's been lots of discussion that this was a really significant market bottom bounce, and we'll see if that ends up playing out here. S&P 500 moved pretty hard, but you can see, we may run into a little bit of resistance here in this channel off some support, whether this is just a counter trend move back up in here. We're still looking kind of at a cautious range. We're very, very close on this just to moving to hold. And as we've talked about before, when you get all that color in there, it's just kind of a little bit of a indecision type of trend. And but we've talked about some of these reversal locations. Let's look at one of the other things I wanted to go through is the Dow Stocks. We've talked about this. There's 8 now in that list. It was 7 before. It moved down to 1. Now it's back to 8. So you've got some big pops and some leadership in the Dow group, Dow Jones Industrials. McDonald's having a nice move. Good solid confirmation green bar right there. General Electric, good, possible breakout trade right here. It's got a little bit of work to do. And when I say a little bit of work to do, it's just there's overhead resistance. There's, it's going to run up and bump into this overhead resistance. Once you get a good solid breakout, then there's a little bit less work to be done in terms of that overall resistance area. Microsoft up huge, breaking out. Microsoft actually has a really good looking long-term chart that as well as does most tech. Apple also getting a nice move here, possible breakout on Apple. A lot of these tech stocks are extremely attractive right here. Coca-Cola moved back up into the buy list. Procter & Gamble, nice looking pattern here as well. Procter & Gamble. Cisco good solid confirmation bar here after a little sideways consolidation. Intel. So some interesting names there. Good solid rally on those stocks. Definitely worth keeping an eye on. There's also a lot of good looking stocks in the new buy list today with good solid confirmation bars. So let's look at a couple here. We've got ASRT, PERI. Good. Again, this is a nice looking bullish profile when you have sitting right here. Everything is green right in the middle, and you even have all green on on fundamentals as well. That's helpful. It's definitely not required because we're focused more on price, and everybody that's focused on the internal fundamentals is either buying and selling. So we're going to be following what the overall trend ends up happening to be there. So some really nice stocks to look at as you're going through that new buy list today. If you don't have full access to the site and software, you can sign up with the link below, and we look forward to having you. Have a great day today.